You're watching the Weak Things Break podcast, brought to you by The Cleaver and The Butcher and The Grocer. Guys, welcome to the Weak Things Break podcast. I'm Loper. This is Tom Barry.
Hi, guys.
And today we have a super special guest, one of my really close friends. But aside from all of that, two-time Olympian, two-time World Cupper, and two-time MLS champion, ladies and gentlemen, Frankie Hejduk from your Columbus crew.
Thanks for having me, guys. Did a lot of things in twos, dude. My number was two Olympics, 2 World Cups, 2 MLS Cups, 4 kids. 2 times 2 is 4. So, yeah.
It's crazy.
A lot of twos in there, man.
And your career, not only spanning, you're such a legend here in Columbus, Ohio, but all over the country now, the MLS is spread. And you are for sure like right there at the forefront of that, being one of the first members ever to the crew and here near the beginning anyway. What does that mean to you to see the sport spread like that?
Oh, man, it's something that, when you're growing up as a kid, you dream of. You dream of your sport, and we didn't really have it growing up in the U.S. They had a short period of time where they had a professional league there, but it didn't last so long in the NASL.
Yeah, that's right.
So you didn't really have too many mentors to look up to, really. So to see it start and to have a league and to be going through the process of actually witnessing U.S. soccer go from really nothing to eventually something, especially after the '94 World Cup that's basically produced a league in '96. But as a child, that's something that you dream of. For one, the only place we could dream of really before was to go to Europe. Because that's where the top players were, and that's where everything was. But now these kids here, they have opportunity to see some of these guys, Landon Donovans, and Clint Dempsey's, and Brian McBride's, all these guys in the MLS now they can look up to, and it's it would have been cool as a kid to have someone in the U.S. to look up to, it really would. But and now we have that, and that's, all I wanted growing up is to play soccer, not only in Europe, but to be able to have a league here in your home country. So to see it grow and how fast it's growing, and to see where it's become from '96 when it started, and I was in Tampa Bay from, 5,000 fans there, and to now, sellout games.
The Mutiny, right?
Yeah, with Tampa Bay Mutiny. Yeah, we'll probably talk about that. But, to see how far it's come from '96 to now is just incredible. I mean, from training in parking lots to now world-class training facilities like the Columbus Crew have. To see it's night and day from what it was to now, and to see all these investors now. Like I said, we'd be training on football stadiums all the time, and turf, and different places, and wherever we could find a place to practice, that's where we practice. And now to see it, you have your own training facility, you have $500 million stadiums being built right and left. Now we have almost 30 teams in the league from where it started in '96, which we had 10.
Wow.
So, yeah, a lot
it is. It's huge.
Yeah.
But it all has to start somewhere, right? And it all started with you at what age?
Just kind of like everyone else, I got into it at 5, and, just ended up, my dad was a coach in America back then. There was no dads that really played soccer. They all played different sports, because you didn't really play soccer, when my dad grew up. It was baseball, football, basketball.
And he was a basketball coach, right? Your dad.
Yeah. He went to Manhattan College, and they just. It's a whole different game now, just a whole different game. And to see where it's come, like I said, from dads that don't know anything about the game coaching you, to now we have, guys like myself who have been at top levels professionally, coaching my kids and coaching my teams. And so there's a big, huge gap in there from, back in the day until now. But started early, and ended up just, I was always a runner. I was always kind of.
So that was your thing, like cardio.
Full cardio, yeah. I mean, without cardio, I'll be honest, man, I wouldn't be sitting right here right now today, because that's kind of what propelled me to catch the coach's eyes.
Yeah.
Especially in preseasons, and I made it a thing where I was going to be fitter than anyone that was coming into camp at the time, because to be honest, I wasn't known as a skilled player. I wasn't the guy that had the best ball skills or could beat people one-on-one. I tackled hard and I ran, and I would just end up outrunning my opponent to the ground, to where he was like, man, I'm not going with this guy on this run. Hopefully he doesn't get the ball. And I would, and But
So a mixture of having like the wind, having the cardio, and like the tenacity,
pretty much
the will to win.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I had skill obviously, but I wasn't. If you would ask that.
But in the beginning, that's a hell of a that's a nice place to start, right?
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
You can slowly get better skill, but you really at a young age, especially I know that you can't really teach too much cardio. You can't.
Right.
But
Sure.
I was, a little bit ahead of the game at, a pretty young age. I was pretty hyper as a kid and a lot of hyperactivity going on. So
was it always soccer? Like, or did you have any other sports growing up and then you just honed into soccer?
No, I did everything. I had soccer, surfing. Surfing was probably my first love. Soccer, I grew up near the water in Cardiff, California, but surfing I surfed more than I played soccer.
Did you win championships in surfing?
Yeah, I was a high school state champion. Yeah, back in, I don't know what year it was, but yeah.
Rumor has it, like if you didn't go pro in soccer, you would have, serious business would have been pro in surfing.
There were some opportunities there. I was sponsored as a kid, like a bunch of sponsors growing up and all that. And I loved it, man. Like I said, it was my first love, and soccer was kind of like more of my hobby, but then, the table turned a little bit.
Where was the change? Like what made you go from, okay, I want to focus more on soccer?
Well, you got I did all, like you say, you asked me before, what sport. I played all the sports growing up. I played basketball. Like my dad was a big basketball guy, but he knew at a certain age, it was like, Frankie, you're not really growing too much. I'm only 5'8". My dad's 6'4", so he would always go to the doctor saying, when's my kid gonna grow? Is he gonna grow? Because he wanted me to be a basketball player, and eventually, around 7th grade, he was like, okay, you're not really growing, so maybe switch sports. And it was the same with baseball. I played baseball. I was an all-star in baseball, actually, and that was just a sport that was a little bit too mellow for me. I couldn't sit in a dugout very long. And
what was your position?
I played second base.
Number 2.
Yeah,
number 2.
That's
like,
unbelievable. So weird. There's so many
time.
twos in my life.
I love
dude.
it.
I'm telling you, it's a trip.
it.
And even like at the grocery store, I always see like 1492. It's like twos are everywhere in my life. It's pretty weird. But so there became a time where I had to pick between soccer, surfing, baseball, basketball, these sports, because they all started to intertwine. And I'd pick surfing and soccer. And I like soccer. Like I said, out of all those sports, for me, those are both the most movement. You're never stopping when you're surfing. You're always paddling or catching a wave or riding and paddling back out, going under a wave. Even when you're sitting, you're not really sitting. The water's moving all around. So, and soccer, obviously, that's all you do is run. I mean, you run 5 to 7 miles a game.
Yeah.
You're running, close to a quarter of a marathon every single game. So, but yeah, that's what I fell in love with, just the movement and just being active. Those were the sports that kind of got me the most. Not like basketball's not active, but there's timeouts. I didn't like timeouts.
When you focus on soccer, did you just focus on, okay, I'm going to work on skills and cardio, or is there any training aspect like, okay, I gotta hone in, I gotta put on some mass, or I gotta do this, or do you go, I'm just going to go the way I am?
I kind of just, I knew, I just kind of went the way I was, but I knew always, like when we were even in, like I said, at a young age, when we do our fit, when you're 10 and 12 years old, 13, 14, 6, that's kind of when it starts really kind of getting, guys start growing and your muscles start developing. And,
sure.
But that's when I really started, winning every single car. Like, your coach would say, hey, 15-minute run right now, go and run as many laps as you can. And growing up as a kid, I never lost one, literally. And even throughout the national team, my whole career in the national team, I never lost one beep test, which we can talk about that later. It's a pretty grueling test, but that was kind of one of the things I prided myself on in my career, was never losing a cardio or a fitness race. So that's one thing I could say. Maybe I didn't score a lot of goals or wasn't the star player, but I took pride in that, and I made sure that I was ready to go, every preseason.
But it's those small goals, accomplishing those small goals, never losing one of those beep tests, and then the next thing, right? Like whatever that goal may be.
Totally. Even in PE class, it was weird. It was something just in my mind. I think it wasn't like I woke up and said, "Oh, I got to win this race." But PE would come, and you do 2 warm-up laps in 7th grade.
Yeah,
I remember, dude. I never even wanted to lose a warm-up lap, and so we had guys that would just every day, like one guy would try to beat me every single day. And so I got these are warm-up laps. Like we're supposed to be chilling, and I never lost a warm-up lap, dude. So it was like I just kind of turned it on when I got like on the whatever field or pitch or if it was a track or whatever. It's just my brain clicked like, dude, you don't want to lose. And I wasn't really too much like that and too much stuff,
Yeah.
So I was like some people say, I never want to lose in this. I never want to lose in that. And no, like even ping pong games with your bro. Like, I'm not that guy at all. Dude.
Don't get in a ping pong match with Frankie if you see him in a hotel or an arcade or something.
No, but I'm not that guy that freaks out about that. But when it came to like cardio or even on the field, that's kind of when I switched over.
Now, what about take me to the transition? So you're playing like club in high school?
Yep.
Yeah. So you're on a club team, obviously, California, all of the West.
Yep.
And then you make the team at UCLA.
Yeah. Then through the club team and which is it's kind of a big club team in Southern California. They produced a few MLS players and national team players. But after college, wait, what was the question again? Sorry.
And just how the levels change, like going from that club team in high school, like now you're at UCLA. I mean, like, are you thinking like, man, did you always know there was going to be more? So you're in that mindset already?
You know what? Not really. It just all kind of happened, to be honest. I mean, I was playing soccer and just having fun, and we would, be in state cups, and we'd be in regionals and go to the nationals, and we like I said, we had a really good team. So I think there was a lot of exposure, but at the time, I never really noticed. I'm sure my parents and dad and everyone did, but I didn't really notice coaches were there. I didn't notice UCLA was looking at me, and until I got the phone call from Ziggy Smith, which he was my coach eventually with the MLS Cup champs in 08 with the crew. But
so cool.
Which is interesting, yeah. But I got the call from him, and the next thing you know, Ziggy Smith's at my house. He was the head coach at UCLA, and meeting with my parents on a recruiting trip, and that's when it kind of dawned on me, like, whoa. Because UCLA at the time was the #1 soccer school, top 5 soccer school. Wow. So that's when I went, whoa. And I still just wanted to serve. I was like, whoa, I'm going to have to choose this now?
Yeah. But a great spot to choose, great
totally.
team. So it's kind of like you're all set, not far from your home break. I mean.
No, it was a dream scenario. But, like all my friends were going pro surfing. And, like I said, I almost surfed more than I played soccer. I mean, soccer was every Tuesday. Growing up, it was every Tuesday, Thursday you played, and you trained, and then the weekends you'd have a game. It wasn't Monday. Like right now, the kids are training Monday through Sunday. There's games they don't stop training. They're basically professionals at age 14, 15, 16 right now. But when I was there, it was twice a week training, and sometimes there was 3 months off. Summer times was off. We didn't really train too much, and that's when I would just surf and get super fit doing that, doing that way. But
do you think that's an issue? Like for kids nowadays, like the underage structure for a lot of kids is unbelievable compared to where it was. It was literally
for sure.
Get a few people together, kids just play around. Now it's all year round for a given sport, and it's very hard for kids to mix different sports because you're either all in on soccer, all in on hockey. Do you think that adds or takes away for longevity for them before burnout happens?
I think so, definitely. I mean, it's to do that every day as a kid. You need some rest. You need to be a kid, and they're not really kids. Let's be honest. That when you're going to school all day, you get home from school and you got to go straight to training. And by the time you get home from training, it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And you got to do your homework, and then it's the same thing again tomorrow. So it's not like you're hanging out with your friends. Your friends are basically your teammates, just like a professional. Your friends, your best friends become your teammates because you hang out with them all day. So I do think it's a little bit much now, but that's where the world's at right now. You go look over in Europe, that's what they're doing. I mean, there's 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids now that are starring for club teams over there, which is unbelievable.
Insane.
A couple, used to be the Michael Owens, back in the day, even him was, whoa, that was crazy. But now it's consistent. It's, seeing it's getting younger and younger and younger. And I think it's because they train so much more now as kids. So they're that much more advanced than we were. They get the quote unquote 10,000 hours more, faster than we would as growing up. It's
big business. It's a phenomenal feeder system. Like, don't get me wrong, the structure they have is crazy. Mm-hmm. But you go from underage, then you have the academies, you graduate from the academies, then you have the reserve. So there's so many steps. So from a administration point of view, like, oh, I can make money off that. But then you have kids who are just losing the love. And it's not just soccer, it's across the board. Like,
absolutely.
Like baseball, the amount of elbow injuries for children at 16 and 17 is unbelievable because they don't get a break. Yeah. So it's because it's new territory we're kind of going into.
Yeah, no, I've even known some kids with the crew team that have said, hey, I need a break, and I'm like, dude, take it, man. Because pretty soon, even if you go to that next level, you're not going to get any more breaks, dude. So the next
tough,
level
right?
is no breaks, dude. It's all, so that's what they're kind of trying to prepare you for. But there needs to be a little balance there of, how much they train and, because the more wear and tear you put in your body, the earlier you're going to quit, the earlier your body's going to say, hey, dude, I can't do this anymore. So.
Well, and look at your longevity. Like to where you had that like spread out as a kid, and then you had other different hobbies.
Yep.
That I think that stands testimony to where like, okay, I can last long in a game if I don't go balls to the wall every day on the same thing. Like having different hobbies is huge.
Yeah.
Like, do you think surfing helps soccer?
Oh my God! I mean, that's what I was talking to Loper earlier. We were, that was pretty much my main claim to fitness. I mean, that's what. So every off season, let's say. Sometimes it was 3 months. If you were in college, you got 3 months off season, basically. Sometimes, normally people, they'll stop for a month or two or do whatever, So like I would go surfing every single off season. So my off season program was a lot of people, would take a couple weeks off and then they start getting in their running program and then maybe their weight program. My off season was I couldn't wait to get back home and to do the off season because it involved surfing. My love, that was my love. So I was getting the greatest workout in my life and loving it at the same time and not even really realizing that I was getting a workout. Because if you think about surfing and what it does to you and your body, you're using every single part of your body. When you're paddling out, just to paddle out, you're always going against the grain. So you're going against the waves. The paddle out's 100 yards. So you got the current going against you. You're paddling against the current.
Totally.
Not only that, you're doing that. Every time a wave comes, you have to push your whole body weight down and push the board under the wave. Hold your breath while you're going under the wave. Under the wave, you're shaking your body, so your arms are engaged, your body's tight, so you're using every part of your muscle while you're holding your breath.
Like a real duck dive.
Like a real duck dive.
Yeah.
While you're holding your breath, and then you come up and you paddle as hard as you can because there's another one coming. And you do that 10 times. That's just to get out for one wave. Then you get out to the outside, you finally get out. You're out of breath a little bit. You sit on your board. Well, everyone's like, okay, you sit on your board. That's easy. No. Try to sit on a surf. Your normal average guy, if he goes to try to sit on a surfboard in the ocean, he'll fall right over. Yeah. Because the ocean's always in constant motion. It's never perfectly flat out there, especially when there's waves. So you're always consistently engaging your core when you're out there without even knowing it. Just to hold yourself up on a board and sit down, your core has to be as engaged as possible just so you don't fall over, so you don't even know you're doing it, but you are. And then, then you hang out for a minute before the next wave comes, kind of get your breath. Then you turn around, you catch a wave, you're paddling as hard as you can, using all those muscles with the water. You get into the wave, you have to push your body weight, all your body weight up as fast as you can, just to stand up as the wave you're dropping in. So you're concentrating, your mind's engaged, you're completely into the moment and then your body is also using every single element it can just to get up on that wave. Then you finally get up on the wave, you surf it all the way in, you're engaging your core again just to stand up straight, just to have a balance. And then use all your legs and your hips to surf the wave all the way to the water. That's just one wave. And you do that again. And you do that for 2 hours. And you come in, you eat, and you go back out. You do it for another 2 hours. So I do triple days of surfing my whole off season. I would get back, no matter what fitness test it was, crush everyone. I wouldn't do one bit of running the whole entire off season. Yeah. And everyone knew it. They're like, you didn't run, did you? I'm like, nope.
And it's such a better form of cardio in the off season for you, I would imagine, because you're not taking all of the pressure that you're taking during the season, right?
Oh, totally.
But it's interesting that surfing is like sort of a reoccurring theme when it comes to certain sports. Like I'll give you an example. Like Frankie's talking about soccer, martial arts, surfing is so prevalent in martial arts. There's
balance.
So many, balance. And I think that there's something from the spiritual aspect of it. Is you're out there, you're with yourself, you're conquering not only this thing it seems like something else that's absolutely alive and out to get you, and you're trying to tame it, but the goals that you create and the goals that you smash while you're out there, or just, you push yourself to new limits. It's interesting that it kind of correlates with a lot of high level sports.
Yeah. Well, and to bring up the point of doing something different, like when we work with football players, the last thing we do is play football. Because they're so burnt out. When you run, people don't realize you're putting out so much force into the ground, especially if you're all out sprint. A professional athlete might be putting out anywhere, depending on your weight, 600 to 800 pounds per step as full sprint. Like, if that's weight that you're lifting, that's a lot of weight.
That's crazy, really.
And that's going into your joints. And plus the amount of miles you cover in a football game, because you're in soccer, so you're going up and down, and you stop, you cut, you slide tackle, you jump up the head. Like, there's so much going on that the impact on your joints over a season, and you accommodate that like over and over and over, year after year, that's a lot of wear and tear on your joints. But then you think of surfing, you're working everything, but outside of the board, the water is like you can like lounge around somewhat in it. There's no pressure on your joints until like obviously you jump up or if you wreck. But for football players, we do the same thing. We do everything statically. We walk, we do sleds. We have them do anything they want to do that's not football. And they go back in better shape than those who do football all off season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally, dude.
So after UCLA, you obviously go into like what is the absolute highest level? You go to Europe.
Yeah, I went to UCLA, and then, well, in between UCLA, you play for UCLA. I played there 3 years, and then I ended up going to the '96 Olympics. So the '96 Olympics came to Atlanta, Atlanta Olympics, and I was invited to that. So I made the Olympic team.
I can't even imagine. So what does the invitation to the Olympics look like? Is it an actual invitation?
Yeah, like they kind of, you play with your college team, and then they have these camps like after your thing and say, hey, they put a bunch of college players or whoever it is together, and they, say there's 50 guys, and you have a training camp for 2-3 weeks, and they slowly bring the bubble down, like the team down, because in the beginning, like I said, there's maybe 50, 100 guys there, and then it becomes 50, and then 25, and then 18 guys or whatever. So and it was pretty cool because for me it was when we trained at the Olympic facility, it was in San Diego. So I was right at home, and even though I still lived on the training facility, it was still about 35 minutes from my house, but I was in a good atmosphere, dude.
Right,
it was like sunny. Yeah, it was perfect.
Yes.
So I was kind of in my element. But yeah, I just got the call for that, and it was the same thing. It was day one. Hey, fitness test. So beep test. It's a test where you have the test where you go beep. You run about 30, 40 yards, and there's a beep. Then you come back and another 30, 40 beep, and the beep gets faster and faster and at different levels. And the whole run's about maybe 12 to 15 minutes. But eventually it gets really fast.
Sure.
And there's different ones. Some of the tests do where you go beep and you stop for a little bit so the lactic acid builds up, and then you go again, you have to stop. And there's one that just, there's a couple that do constant beeps. So, but that was everyone. It was a known thing. Every camp would start with that, and everyone hated it, and I loved it. I was like, okay, because I knew I was always ready for it, And I actually beat the beep test one time. I stopped the beep test; it hadn't been done. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. It was like no one knew what to do. I was still running. Everyone's like, because eventually people just fall off like flies. The whole team's doing it, and eventually,
Who's the first to go on the team usually? Like what position?
For the goalkeepers, for the most part. But there are some pretty fit goalkeepers. Brad Friedel was a really fit goalkeeper. I mean, that guy could run with the best of them. And but for the most part, those guys are good. They got kind of an easy excuse to get out. It's funny. Those tests are funny though, because half the guys, they all kind of wait for each other to go out, and once one goes, and the next one goes, and they just kind of fall like flies. And
did you feel like you're ready for anything after the Olympics?
Yeah, totally. I ended up having a good Olympics. We ended up going 1-1-1. And
how many people get to say that? I ended up having a good Olympics. I mean, that's so special. You're wearing the American flag on your back.
Dude, it was a gnarly, your country. Yeah, that's a gnarly moment. That's when you have a moment where I didn't really, I was still just playing soccer my whole life up until that point and just having fun, And then it wasn't until that moment where you got to the games, and we didn't get to do the walk because we had a soccer game the next day. So we didn't get to do. Both times I was at the Olympics.
For the national team or for?
No, for the Olympic Games. We didn't
for the ceremony.
We didn't do the ceremony or whatever because we had a game the next day, and the coach didn't want us to be on our feet for 6 hours, so we didn't get to do that. But I ended up having a decent Olympics, and like I said, it wasn't until I got to that hand over your heart, and I hadn't really played in huge stadiums like that. And our first game was at Alabama plays, football team.
Oh,
there was
cool.
85,000 there.
No way.
It was the first, we were playing against Argentina. And it was insane. So when you're doing the national anthem, all of a sudden you're kind of a little like, whoa, what's going on? I started kind of like tripping a little bit, I remember in the beginning, but then I started just trying to amp myself up. And
Sure.
like, then you start thinking about your coaches and like
Yeah,
who I'm
yeah.
playing for, all the coaches growing
that's
up,
awesome.
and all those thoughts go through your mind. And
So
then
you're
all of a
really
sudden
thinking
you're just
about
like,
that. You
oh,
are, yeah.
I'm thinking about, dude, I'm playing for these guys. There's, you know,
In those
there's-
moments of adversity, you're digging deep for that stuff.
Totally. Yeah. You're just, you know, it's like, man, dude, come on, dig in. You know, there's guys that would love to be in your position, but
Yes.
you're playing for all the dudes that you grew up playing with, dude. They're watching you right now, and they're living vicariously a little bit through you. So all those thoughts go through your head, and it used to just amp me up, you know. So many times during the national anthem, you'd see me, I'm always like this, dude. And, you know, I was always kind of like, dude, no nerves, just amp yourself up. So I'd kind of switch my mind there. But yeah, you go from playing in front of 1,500 people, maybe a maximum game at UCLA, to playing in front of 85,000.
That's unbelievable.
Of your home country.
And so on Argentina,
whoa.
are they? You guys
They're
are
top of the line,
but, no, but you
dude.
guys are college age. Like, how old are they?
They're
that you
same.
think?
So in the Olympics and soccer, you have to be under 23 years of age. So
Oh,
everyone's
interesting.
at the same age, basically. Yeah.
Is each sport different like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
Soccer's
that.
kind of weird like that. I don't think a lot of the other sports aren't like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why soccer's like that, but they are. And then eventually they allowed 3 overage players to be on the soccer. But when I was the first one in '96, I was, you know, they didn't have the overage players. So, but yeah, we scored in the first 30 seconds against Argentina, and it was just like an
amazing.
moment. And then,
Yes.
and then we ended up getting crushed 3-1. But it was a good 30 seconds, dude. That game was a good 30 seconds. And then, but that team that we played, the Argentinian team, I mean, there was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that went on to be superstars in Europe. So Crespo and all those guys, that's who we played against.
Wow.
What's the because we get to watch the end result, right? The game. And the game, what I love about the Olympics and soccer especially is how the fans are ridiculous. Like you see everyone coming together, but we don't see behind the scenes. So what's that like from going from, were you at the Mutiny at the time?
Yep.
Yeah. For going to the Olympic team, was the structure different? Was the layout different? Like how did you balance that out?
You know, it wasn't really too much different. It wasn't, because it was when I was with the Mutiny. You know, it was that the weird part was that you would kind of leave your team for a while. And back then, in those years, like your team would play on Saturdays. So if you were gone away, you were missing being with your team a little bit if you were with the Olympic team. So you know, with the Mutiny, the first I think 6 months that the league started, I was with the Olympic team and not with the Mutiny. So I came like halfway through the first season. So it's a little bit awkward, you know, because you come in and even, you know, as you get more professional and all that, you know, guys start to get to know you. But it was always a bit weird, you know, when you left your team, even with the national team, and went.
Oh, like when you get back a little bit, it'd be kind of like,
it's like,
oh, look who showed up.
Yeah, tell you
Captain America's back.
No, there's not. No, really, there's that type of style. You're like, man, you kind of miss being with your team, but when you're with that team, like those are your bros too.
Yeah,
so it's like there's a weird balance of both of it. But I just tried to be as cool as I can the whole time to everyone. You know, that was it. Just be as rad as you can be, and you know, things just work out that way.
What about the coaching personalities going from one team to the Olympic team? Was that a hard transition, or are coachlies somewhat interchangeable when they?
Yeah, I mean, they all have their different styles, but they're all coaches at the end of the day, and they all have, they all have their ways, their own ways. And some guys are more strict than others, and some guys are player managers. You know, Bruce Arena was a great player manager, and so they all have their little different tendencies. But you know, it's all the same goals. And as players, you try to. You know, obviously, you like the coaches that played you a lot, and you hate the ones that I didn't like. You know, they might a couple German coaches. I don't even want to mention their name, dude. You know, and they were unbelievable coaches. Like really, but for me, they were awful coaches. I was like, you know, but that's kind of sports. You know, you try to take it all with a grain of salt. A grain of salt. You take what you can from even the coaches that you don't like. But yeah, at the end of the day, everyone wants to play. You know, you always want to be out there. So that's always an interesting balance of, and it's probably an interesting balance with the coaches too. You got to everyone. There's 11 guys that can play, and there's 22 guys on the team. So a lot of it's kind of babysitting and micromanaging the players.
A lot of personalities too.
That's what I mean. Personalities. So at the next level in coaching, you're more of a player manager almost than a coach. You know. because the drills that you're doing throughout your course of your career, they're all similar. They
Yeah.
might, each of them, Pep Guardiola might have a little tweak of a same training that I'm watching the academy training do here. You know, he might have a better point to there, but the trainings are very, very similar. So, you know, even it just depends on the coaching style a little bit, and I think of the success of the coach.
Was that, so from your performance that World Cup, is that how you ended up in the Bundesliga? Or how did that all come
Bundesliga
about?
came from the Olympics, in '96 Olympics. We played Argentina, which is a good team, and I had a decent game against them. Then we played, I think, Kuwait, and we won. And then we played Portugal, and we tied. And that didn't, we ended up not going through on goal differential.
Yeah.
But those 3 games, I had some pretty decent games. And, you know, I think I was on the radar from at that point, because I remember earlier there was a German guy who'd always be around the bus. Hey, Frankie, what's going on? And eventually he became my agent, you know?
Yeah.
So,
cool.
but he was saying, hey, there's some interest over there. I was like, oh, cool. So ended up, you know, having a good Olympics. And then from the Olympics went to the World Cup. Or after the Olympics, I had to play in the MLS.
Yeah.
So then it was like, you know, 1.5 years, 2 years of just being a pro for the first time, which that was a whole different deal too, you know?
What was that like?
Oh man, that's a whole different change. I mean, you're in college, you're living it up, dude. You're doing it up. You're living free as you want.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe someone's paying for your stuff and, you know, whatever. But, you know, you get to be a pro. It's, you know, the trainings are different. Everything's just so much more professional.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, it's like you got to be on time. You know, in college, you show up a little late, everyone laughs at you. The coach gets a little angry. And, you know, in pros, you just show up late. It's like you get the stare of death, dude. You know, so and then, you know, you're living alone and trying to find an apartment, and you know, because in college, kind of your parents help you out with a lot of that stuff. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
And then once you go to the next stage, like you're doing
still
all
a kid,
that,
right? Yeah,
still a
yeah,
kid,
yeah,
totally,
yeah,
dude. And
yeah.
I still wanted to party, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, you got a game tomorrow. You can't party before the game. I'm like, what? I used to in college. You know, what are you talking about? Like, no, dude, that doesn't work that way anymore. You have curfew, and the coach is good. I'm like, oh, whoa. So, that was a bit of a change for me, but you adapt pretty quick. You know, the guys. We had a cool little group too with the Mutiny. We all lived in the same apartment complex. We were.
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
Me,
In Tampa?
For me, it was an easy transition. I went from California to Tampa.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect transition. Yeah. So we were. We all lived in the same place, and so after trainings, and we ended up my first year. I must have had the most perfect coach for me. He was a Dutch guy, Thomas Rongen. And smoking cigarettes always, blah, blah. Just show up for training. After training, get the hell out of here. And wouldn't care what anyone did. Would be at the pool with us after training.
Oh, that's awesome.
Drinking beers. I was like, this is the pros. I'm like, this isn't too bad. You know? This is all right. You know. But then that was when we were winning. That was when because I just came and I'm like, well, this is kind of cool. Coach is partying with us. But there were like 5. Once we started losing, there was the pool parties became.
Oh no!
Deflate
the rafts. It's over.
The raft a little bit. So you learn that style, and then it became even crazier when you got to Germany. But that's a whole different story.
So you go from Tampa to Germany?
No, then I go from Tampa. So Tampa to the World Cup. So I made so Tampa was in '96, and then they had the '98 World Cup. So I played 2 years in Tampa Bay, and then was on the national team. So that's when I started really juggling national team, club team, national team, club team, and that was the first time it got kind of weird when I'd come back to the club team. I was only at this point 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, maybe 20, and you know there's guys that 34 years old, 32, 28, 29. They're on the team.
Yeah.
And I'm always gone and coming back, and I start and I get to play, and so you're taking someone's position. And that was the first time where, you know, you kind of got bad vibes from people like, oh, what, bro? Like, this is my livelihood and you're messing with it. And that's kind of pretty much when I switched the cap. I started getting crushed in training a bunch. And I'm like, and then I started realizing, whoa, these guys are fighting they got families, dude.
Yeah, right.
I go back to my beers. They go back to 4 kids and their wife yelling at them.
Yeah. It's a different motivation.
So I learned that really quick. So kind of when I learned that, that's when training became a little bit more serious because I was getting kicked at so much. I was like, you know what? I got to stand up for myself. And then I started blading people, and then.
So like when you say you get kicked, like how do you get kicked?
Just after like little pal, like guys know what they're doing when you're training against the same guys every day. So you get to know certain guys' tendencies. They know you're in, you know, you could tell when a guy's a little agitated or a little whatever, but when everyone starts getting on you, you pass a ball and you're kind of watching your pass and a guy, bam, hits you like, you know, second or two after the play, maybe knocks you over, or you pass the ball and a guy does a slide tackle late and you got to jump over. Like, if you don't jump, he's crushing you, you're breaking your leg. So you're jumping over things. And that started happening more and more, you know, because I was, you know, I think whatever, maybe some jealousy kicked in. I was always gone, coming back. Sure. So life kicked in, you know. So then I started doing it back, and I never really let back after that. You know?
So you didn't have that aggressive style before?
I did. No, I did, but I wasn't like, you know, I guess I did.
Was it one of those like, I didn't know it was like this moments?
Yeah. No,
I didn't know it was like this, guys.
Well,
you know?
no. For me, I think I kind of was always the guy doing that a little bit. Like, I was always kind of like crushing people. I was kind of hitting people. Like, you know, even growing up with my best friend, we'd go home from training. Like, dude, what the fuck you doing, man? Like, dude, look at my ankle. I'm like, dude, sorry, bro. And like, in the moment, I don't remember you being my friend. You know, like that's kind of how it was. So, but no one ever really did it to me, you know, because I was the defender. So you kind of always got to kick people more as a defender, the guy you're going against. But once I started seeing even attacking midfielders doing it, and guys with positions that don't normally do that, like slide tackle, like a center forward at the pro level, they start doing that stuff and they get into it. And once I noticed that everyone is just kind of like me, then I did that. I was like, yes. So I kind of got amped up. I was like, let's go. And from then on, that's kind of what I did. I ran and I kicked and I fought and I scratched and I screamed and somehow got to Olympics and World Cups and did everything. But a lot of it was, to be honest, heart and, you know, just feeling it.
Was that a change of, I'm not sure if intent is the word, you go from just doing what you normally do to now you realize, oh, I got to really do this against other people. Did that, from going from the national team back to the club team, noticing all this, was that more motivation to fuel you to keep going? Or were you like, whoa, what's going on here?
No, that's like once it started, then you didn't want to stop because, you know, that meant, dang, once you're on the World Cup team, you want to try to stay on that team.
Sure,
you know?
right.
Because there's so many players. If you don't, then if you're not invited to a camp, you're like, oh, man. So you always want to keep that level up and, you know, do whatever you can. I mean, obviously, when you would come back from the national team camps, it was a different level. It really was. And I remember players often saying, oh, he's a national team camp. There he was, you know, because all of a sudden you're playing a little bit quicker, you're doing stuff a little bit faster because, you know, you're playing against the best of the best. So, I loved it. I really did. And back in the, I don't like traveling at all anymore. Back in the day, I loved it. Dude. I used to love getting on the planes, going back and forth, and you know, I felt pretty cool.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it was. Now, just keep me in Westerville, dude. I'm not fine. Westerville and Costa Rica. That's all I want. Those are the only two places I want to go.
It's not bad.
Do you think the biggest training aid for you was playing against high level of competition?
Yeah,
more than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're. For pretty much the teams I was at, especially in Germany, you know, was, So once I was in the MLS for a while, I played 3 years there, and then my contract ran out during the World Cup year.
Okay.
So then I made the World Cup team, and that was a whole different battle because I was on the team forever, and then I got injured. I got a hamstring injury.
Oh, man.
And a gnarly one, like just like grade 3 or 2. So I was out almost a month and a half, 2 months, and they invited me into camp. And because the coach, you know, before this game, before that, I was playing well. They invited me into camp, and I was injured for like the first 3 weeks of camp. And then I eventually just got an injection. And this was probably 2 weeks before the World Cup, and I hadn't really trained. And I was like, dude, I'm not making the World Cup team. And they gave me an injection. I think it's Toradol, and it started helping out a little bit. And I started running, and the next thing I know, I had about, the coach was like, Frankie, this is time, dude. You either got to go or not. And I was like, I'm either tearing my hamstring or I'm not going to make the team, or I'm making the team. So I was like, dude, I'm like, nope, I'm fine, I'm going. And the whole time I was doing it, I felt like my hamstring was just gonna snap. But you know, that's that injury a little bit. But yeah, up until the nth hour, it was going to be, I probably wasn't going to be on that team, and that would have changed everything, you know. But yeah, so it's a lot of luck and a lot of things working out, but I ended up having some good doctors help me get back into it. And the next thing you know, I'm playing in a World Cup game. Came on at halftime against Germany and had a good game. And then we played against Iran, I think, the next game. We ended up losing 2-1. The Germany game was 2-0. Lost 2-1 to Iran. That was the first game I started. And then right after that night in the hotel, that's when I was talking to the Leverkusen elite. Yeah, we did the deal in one night in a hotel during the World Cup. Yeah, so
it took that showcase.
Well, yeah,
that was your intro into Europe.
Yeah, that was my interest. Yeah, basically the World Cup. Like I said, they were all the eyes were on us a little bit before, just with the Olympic team and stuff. But yeah, that's when I really knew it. I saw one of the main managers over there. His name is Rainer Kalman. He's basically the owner of Bayer Leverkusen. Or Bayer Leverkusen, it's sponsored by Bayer Aspirin, so they have a lot of money.
A little bit.
A lot of money, you know? So that was the first time I was just like, whoa.
So you get over there and you said there's a certain level of professionalism at the Mutiny, but now you're in Europe and you're in Germany. The California kid is in Germany. What are you thinking?
Dude, night and day. Night and day.
From everything from your experiences, sensory-wise, to the training in the
just
in
night
the gyms.
And day for how professional, dude. You would walk in and Mutiny locker room, as professional as it was, you'd still go in there. People are jamming to it, dozen jokes. People, So it was very loose and really team-oriented. You felt like really you had a band of brothers.
Yeah.
You got to Germany. I got to Germany, and they get the whole welcoming from the stadium, all the fans, and you go into the locker room.
Was that more overwhelming than anything that you had experienced at that point?
No, you know what? It was just crazy. It all happened so quick because I was so just naive about it. I was like, when I was signing, I wasn't thinking Germany, they speak a different language there. And, that's how naive about it. Because I was like, I'll probably go to England or something, I was really or they'll speak English. No, but, everyone knows English. So, it was, dude, you go into that. I remember just going in, first of all, you got to, go to a whole different country. And then you get in there and, dude, you realize, oh shit, really quick. I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, you're go, whoa, because no one speaks English and they're not really trying to help you, and you think everyone is, and man, the driving's crazy and and just everything. It just happens really quick and really fast, and then you got to go train with these new set of teammates who are all at the best top level in their profession. And you show up there, and I remember showing up thinking it was going to be. You're nervous driving in, but I'm like, I'm thinking I'm going to hear some music going to the locker room. I get into the locker room. No shit. Everyone's sitting down, literally how you think it'd be like a German locker room. Sitting down,
super stoic,
looking out the ground, not saying no one's talking. And I'm like, and I thought I was in the middle of a meeting. I walked in, I'm like, shit, am I late? And I'm like, and I was there, and I look at one guy, and one guy spoke English. He was an Irish guy, not Dirk. God, I forget his name, but he actually ended up marrying a German guy, ended up marrying an Irish girl. Yeah, so they spoke English, so I hung out with him right in the beginning, right away. But so he instantly, it's a different mentality in Germany and then in Ireland. Hey, what's up, man? And he had a German-Irish accent. So I'm like, what is this?
Oh, is that right? Wow.
It was great, but. So he said, I'm like, oh, God, good. But then you kind of go to every guy and they just sit there and look at you and you shake their hand and you just go, Morgan. And that's how it is. Morgan. Next guy. Morgan. No one's like, hey, man, what's up, man? Nice to meet you. Welcome to the team. And it's a straight down. You're like, I noticed right away. And I sat in between two guys and I was like, okay, they weren't like, hey, man. Yeah. They were both brothers, too. And they were like, this guy, dude.
Oh, my God.
Dude, it was so insane. And then, just even the training methods, like I said, and MLS, at least at the time when I was there, this was in the beginning.
Sure, the early days.
Nothing. Like I said, we were training at parks.
It's like when the UFC wore shoes in the cage, right? Yeah, Mark Coleman was winning with shoes on, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
dude. So so then it's just you get there and go out to training, and man, it's as professional as you can get. There's cones set up there. Even in the locker room, when you went in our locker room, oxygen tanks everywhere, peaceful room where you can sit and well, there's bubbles everywhere, masseuses, top of the line gym, like just blown away.
Wow.
Like when I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like this is, I guess I'm here, you know? And then you go out to training and it's as intense as can be. Their trainings over there, you know, they're a lot of, they're kind of like they're horse trainings, we call them. Tie a bunch of weights to your side and you have that little thing that you run with.
Yeah, the sled.
It's just a sledge and you do nonstop of those. And I was just like, what? And that was just to start training. And dude, by the time, and this was my first time, and by the time, and I was a fit guy. By the time training was starting, my legs were already shaking. That was just from doing those, you know, with the horse thing, whatever they called. And I was like, right then I kind of knew, like, whoa. And then it came to training. I was already tired almost before training even started. And then training was, if you think they were kicking me in Tampa, it was freaking the opposite. You know, those guys know where you are at all moment. If they see you coming right here, instead of going like that to hit your chest, they'll do one of those. Boom.
Oh, is that right?
I did. First, like 3 weeks of training I had bloody nose every 3 days. Yeah. And then you gotta
just keep playing it.
Well, then you keep playing and then you man up, dude. And
Yeah, right.
Then eventually you start brawling and you gotta stick up for yourself. There's fights there.
And people don't really think about soccer like that. You know what I mean?
God.
But it really is like that, and more so in Europe, you think?
Oh my God, dude. I mean, well, you have so many different nationalities coming together. I mean,
Right.
we were a huge club. We had all the Brazilian guys. We had Croatian guys. You had the German guys. Yeah, you had guys from everywhere, and they would all kind of hang out together. They would all sit at their own tables, you know.
Right,
so it really wasn't like, remember how I said like MLS was more of a team, like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
This was like, dude, you hung out with your nationality. Germans hung out with the Germans. They didn't really like the Brazilians. Brazilians, you know, and it was awkward. And I kind of went from table to table.
You were the peacekeeper.
Yeah, I kind of was. But then, you know, there was fights literally every day. None of them, you know, everyone's battling for a paycheck over there.
Did they look down on Americans at that time in Europe?
Yeah,
because we weren't as involved as football players?
Completely, dude. I mean, there was so much, like, it's almost like, wow, what are you doing here? You're American. You're not supposed to be over here, you know? And at that time, there wasn't really a lot of top Americans at top clubs. They'd all come over and played at mediocre clubs. You know, not like the days now with Pulisic, with Chelsea, and all these guys are playing with these big clubs. Back then, it was like, even if you got to Europe, you probably played for a mediocre club team, which was cool with Leverkusen because it was one of the top clubs in Germany.
Yeah,
I was able to play in Champions League and all these other tournaments, and that was the reason why I made the decision kind of to go there, was because I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm ready for the best of the best, but let's go try it out.
What was the Champions League is a step above? Like what was? Oh man, like what was that? Because you guys play what? Like you Bayern Munich, you had Lazio. You'd all like what was
all of them, man. We played all the best. Any of those champions, Manchester United. We played Liverpool. We played Arsenal. We played, you know, Dynamo Kiev. We played the top teams from all those countries, and that's just a whole different deal. And as well, if you think that
so like 80,000 in Alabama, but how many now?
Yeah, well, the soccer fields, you know, soccer stadiums over there, there's only a few of the top clubs that have the big 80,000 seat stadiums, the Man Uniteds, the Real Madrids, Barcelonas. Other than that, you know, the average soccer field's 25, 35,000 over there.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit, even 20 to 30. It's like, they're almost like, you know, the Death Star here in Columbus, dude.
Yeah.
They're almost a lot of them are like that, except for like the bigger clubs. So, yeah, the Olympics were kind of a different deal, but you still played at those stadiums. Like we still played Barcelona in those stadiums and in those type of games, and where's 80,000 and insane. But when I said like the atmosphere was just so gnarly in training, now take that times 10 for a Champions League game, because there's so much money on the line for the club. I mean, you advance in a Champions League game, the club itself makes hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it is, you know? So, you know, even, you know, our bonuses were twice what we would make in a game. You know, GM or whoever, manager would come up and say, guys, if you win this game, we're tripling your bonuses. So, you know, if you made whatever, you get paid per game. You get your salary over there, and then you get paid if you step on then you get your bench salary. So if you're on the bench and you don't come in, you get paid. If you come in for 1 minute in a game, you get paid, and then you get paid an appearance fee. So there's like 3 or 4 different ways to keep on making money in one game. And that's why the trainings are so intense, because literally in one game and on a weekend, you can miss out on $10,000. if you're not in the lineup, if you're not.
Yeah, but they obviously have gotten it right for a very long time because they understand how to motivate people, how to get the best of the best to perform at that absolute highest level.
Totally, and I guess what it is money.
Money is the answer.
That's what, because I mean, the more money that could be made, the gnarlier the training's got.
Yeah,
that's what I noticed. You know, I was making nothing. I was making nothing at the Mutiny, and no one cared. Everyone's like, everyone's making some other amount of the same money. You know, maybe a couple guys made, you know, but it was all fun. And then when you get to that next level, it wasn't fun. It was, dude, you just took 10 grand from me, dude. I had 4 kids, you know, so it got not, I wouldn't say personal a little bit, but it got very more like, I guess, business-like.
Sure.
You know, and the business was, I'm staying on the field. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure I'm at least on the bench this game. And you did that in trainings. And the trainings, like I said, we used to train sometimes it's 3 times a day. Wake up 7 o'clock in the morning. You'd go on a 4 to 5 mile run, come back, eat breakfast at the club. Then probably 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, get out on the training field, train an intense training with running, with every 2 hours. Come in. You have, that was from probably 10 to 12. Then you'd come in, the next training was at 4, so you'd have a couple hours in between. You get something to eat, and maybe they had little beds you could sleep at the club, or some guys would just go home, rest or whatever, and then we'd train again from 4 to 6. And that was probably twice a week we'd do that.
Each session is different though, right?
Yeah. One's like a running session, the next one's kind of weights and a mix of weights and playing, and then the third one's all like technical stuff, crossing and finishing, little small games and. But dude, that's just one day. By the end of the day, you're shot, man. So it's all. Then it just becomes recovery. Your whole life just becomes recovery. In soccer, especially when you're playing in a Champions League. Because you're playing a game on Saturday, a game on Wednesday, and a game on Saturday. And during those 3 games, you could go from Leverkusen to Moscow to back over to Italy, and you're traveling and. So it was all about recovery, and they were masters at it. The Germans had it down to a science. I don't know what they were putting in me, but I always felt good. They always said it was vitamin B, man. It's vitamin B. I'm like, why am I doing this behind closed doors? And it's vitamin B. All of a sudden, I'd feel great after. But
so I have friends who in turn become strength coaches in the soccer between the Bundesliga and the Premiership, and obviously we just chat away. And they're like, bro, the structure, like the schedule is you do not screw this. The schedule is given, and you do not. If you miss that schedule, you're screwed.
You're screwed.
And it's hard. Like strength conditioning in soccer, it may have changed somewhat lately, but it was after recovery was a big thing. Skills, drills. You had a certain amount of weight room to try prevent injury, but everything was based around recovery.
Oh,
and that was.
And if you're not doing the right thing, like you said, like the. A couple times, like, during the time changes, when time changes, I would be late for training all the time, like an hour. When they do it, because no one would tell me.
Right.
You would think someone would be like, hey, Frankie, come to train tomorrow. It's daylight savings time. Yeah. Or you would think that I would know that. But,
right. No,
so I'm with you. Blaming everyone else.
I think they would tell us. Yeah.
No one ever, I would always come late. I remember I would always be pulling up in the car and just go, because they would all be running. And I was
a terrible feeling.
And they all called me Surf Man there. So I'd come
Surf Man.
The German guy would be like, Surf Man.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was just like, no. But
what was that like? Been so away from surfing? Could you surf in Germany?
No, not at all. That was tough. It was, yeah. But that was kind of the stage where it was like, this is kind of my time to excel in this profession and try to do what I can here. So, but believe me, I couldn't wait every off season. We'd get a month off, and that's when I would just go. And like I said, that's where my training regime would just really kick in of surfing. So, and I would look forward to it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't look forward to training, like too hard. Some people do, but like you're like, oh gosh.
But it goes to prove you make your training something that you love and something that's really fun. I mean, you're going to want to get back to it, right?
Yeah,
it's a hobby. It's
totally. I mean, so yeah, it was. Hidden fitness, we used to call it. It's like you're getting as fit as you can be, but you don't even know it because you're having fun. So
that's amazing.
What's your biggest or most fondest memory from Germany?
Oh man, probably playing one of the games against an Italian team. Who was it? Not Roma. God, I'm Lazio, and Well, my son's named Nesta. And we were playing against the guys, one of the biggest Italian stars. His name was Albertini Nesta. So I got to play against him the whole game. And I just remember going out, this guy was like, he's a superstar. And I just went up to him after the game and didn't know if he spoke English. I was like, hey man, my son's name's Nesta. Can I get your jersey? And the guy, it was just like the coolest thing because I was like so scared. And I was like, I was playing too, but I was still kind of like a young kid and still, I was playing against guys that I idolized, and it was a little bit of a surreal moment. And he was like, no problem here. And I was just like, I remember just being so stoked at that moment, like, whoa, I just got. But you would think that as a kid, if you got his jersey on the side of the street, you'd be stoked. But I was on the field with him. I just played with him. I was just like still kind of in envy, which was kind of weird, but it was a pretty rad moment, That was, and it was kind of early at Leverkusen. So that's when I was like, that was kind of the moments where I was like, oh wow, this is real.
Yeah,
this is real. Cool. Playing against this guy. It's real.
And plus, that seemed to be a pretty significant era of when it was very physical. Like football, I'm not saying it's physical now. But back then, you had the Roy Keanes, you have all these guys who were just like crushing people.
No problem. They didn't have a problem getting red cards. Right now, knowing if they get a red card, it's like they did it stupidly or awkwardly. Back in the day, it was like they got a red card because they were going after you to break your leg. And they would get the red card and maybe your leg was broken and they'd be back 3 games later. Now you did that, you're out for 6 months, maybe a year if you did that to somebody. And I kind of compare it to like how basketball was played in the 80s and how it's played now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's all now, like, you can't touch a guy, all the stars, you don't touch them. Back in the day, man, Maradona, you saw how many times that guy got nailed, like crushed. You don't see Ronaldo getting crushed that much anymore. If he is, it's a jump where he jumped over anyone, but man, Roy Keane against Ronaldo back in the day, like if Ronaldo messed with him back then, that was a guy you didn't want to mess with, and he would let you know. But yeah, the game's definitely evolved, like you said, and that was more my game. To be honest, it was the physical. I was fast, I could run, and I tackled hard. So that was the type of game that I love. So that's why even when I went to Germany, the game it suited my style a little bit, in terms of the feistiness and all that. And
do you think that brings the fans, like, to me, everyone wants to go and see something like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that.
Sure, right.
Like, did that bring the fans more into it, or do you think it's made any difference compared to now?
No, it definitely has. Well, I think now, the fans there is a difference, but now it's, a step over or something fancy, a back heel, you get back then it was like you said, like you crushed a guy and got the team pumped, and you got the fans pumped, and they were just as pumped for you to have that tackle, and you felt it, and you felt the energy in the stadium. And towards the end of my career here, you didn't, they liked the step overs and all the fancy stuff, so I didn't get too many cheers after that.
So there's a big step up in training from when you went over from the Mutiny to Leverkusen. Then what was the next? The World Cup, the 2002 World Cup was next after that.
Yeah, then we went to, and that was an interesting one too, because that was in South Korea, and that was right after 9/11. So the security around us and like how we traveled and how
was it different? Like, what was different with the security?
Oh my God, it was night and day. I mean, we had FBI agents around us. We couldn't go out of the hotels ever.
What kind of security do Olympic athletes usually have, like on average?
No, not like that. You're a little bit more free to do what you want. You know, like it was almost like, if you wanted to go outside of your hotel, you could go. I mean, obviously, if we played El Salvador in some of these countries, you didn't go outside your hotel, but for the most part, you can kind of do what you want. The World Cup is, it was, if you went out of your hotel, you had a guy, like FBI agent, there'd be 2 of them, but you would walk out with a buddy and there'd be 2 behind him, like you, but nobody would know it was them. And they would follow you wherever you went. And the amount of security around the bus was just insane. We had all these, we had like 3 rows of cars each way around us, all the South Korean government or, the police officers. And it was intense. Guns everywhere. I mean, we were thinking it was going to be, at any moment.
It's a different time, right?
Yeah.
People that are too young to remember that, like, don't realize how dramatically things changed after 9/11.
Yeah. I mean, it was intense. And so, then we went to the World Cup, man, and the World Cup's going, and, I'm kind of a little bit more established now in soccer, and yeah, we had a team that was probably for me one of the best teams in soccer history.
You got to the quarterfinals, right?
We got to the quarterfinals. Yeah, with probably one of the most. No, I think the second furthest we've ever made. I think in the 50s, maybe they made it to the semis. Or back in the day. Yeah. So
is this the trip somewhere along the line, like where they outside the hotel they were playing the music so loud?
No, that's in El Salvador.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's like Costa Rica, El Salvador. Yeah, the Central American countries. They're the ones that keep you up all night with the radio stations blasting.
That's one of the greatest stories.
Yeah,
just like hassling the team the night before the game, and just fans going crazy.
Dude, firecrackers.
So
they would
funny.
light firecrackers, throw them at our hotel windows. There'd be a full blown you'd look outside your window and there'd be the biggest just amplifier you've ever seen, and it was the local radio station, and there would be like 500 people around it, and they're having some part, and they would go all night long, dude. And it was just
amazing.
Boom, and all you heard was boom, 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 all night
in front of the American national team.
Yeah, dude, you never slept. Dude, you never slept a wink, dude. At some of those places. I mean, I remember one time we got our hotel, something happened to it. So they had moved us like almost into this like jungle area. We were like in the middle, and they switched the game. It was in Guatemala. They went from the national stadium, and they couldn't play there because it was too wet or something.
Okay.
So they switched the game to like literally we're in the middle of a jungle in Guatemala, and we were on almost like a compound. It wasn't a resort. It was like a compound. Dude.
Yeah.
And there was like 4 guys to a room. You each have like your own little casa or casita, but it wasn't like a casita like you would think.
Right.
It was like stone wall. Like it was like, dude, it wasn't cool. And so we're all like, oh, whatever, we're there, and nighttime comes, we're all playing cards, about 9 o'clock comes, 10 o'clock. Now we're all kind of getting tired. So next thing I know, all I hear is just boom, boom. And everyone's going on. It sounds like gunshots.
Yeah.
Bah, 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 bah. They were lighting firecrackers, throwing them over the fence onto all of our little hotel casitas. Then proceeded to have the local radio station out there too. Literally all night long, dude. Literally firecrackers every 10 minutes. There'd be right when even like 3 in the morning would come right when you're getting used to the firecracker noise. Like, okay, boom. They would wait like 10 minutes perfectly, like where you thought they're stopped.
Yeah.
Like then they'd turn off all the music, literally. And then you'd be like, oh, and it'd be like 10, 15 minutes. And then and then boom, 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 boom. So they had it so planned to do everything they could to disrupt us, and they did, man. It was tough to win down
Effective.
there. Yeah, it was effective. It was. But we've turned the tides on them a little bit here in the U.S. and playing in the cold weather and all that. So
what an experience.
Yeah.
What was it like to beat Portugal in the World Cup?
Oh my God, yeah. So we, during that, who did we play? We had Portugal, South Korea, and Poland. And I think the Polish team, they were a solid Polish team in European qualifying. Portugal was one of the favorites to win the cup. I think they won their qualifying thing. And then South Korea was the host country. And up until then, I think 90% of the host countries that host a World Cup, they say, or 80%, they make it to the next round.
Okay.
So it's almost like, okay, South Korea's making it, so now you got to beat these 2 other good teams. So it was a tough group right from the start, and they had Luis Figo. He was a FIFA Player of the Year, and we were as fit as can be. That training camp that we did before that World Cup was not. I wouldn't say like the most intense, but we ran and it was great fitness the entire time. But we had a training coach that was at the top of his game, and he had everything down. We from vitamin intake to this to that, but in terms of how fit we were, and I was in the best shape of my life right before that World Cup, and it was because of that trainer. He trained us so perfectly and knew what everyone's body was like, and what they could take and what they couldn't take. And we still talk about it today as players. Is we were as fit as we've ever been that cup. And it showed because we came out and playing against Portugal. Everyone's nervous, and oh my God, bam! Next thing you know, boom! And I actually ended up playing left back that game. And normally that was the first time I ever played left back in my life. I always played right back, so I had to play on the left side because we had an injury to a teammate. And that game, the guy that's lining up on the right is Luis Figo, World Cup FIFA Player of the Year. So I'm like, oh my God, I remember right before we're in the locker room and the coach is going, it's like, everyone, we're doing the meeting. Everyone in. I was in the bathroom. I was doing my thing, I was doing my number 2, doing number 2. So they're like, wait, Frankie's here, and he's like, I call him, sorry, coach. I come in, he's like, I was like, oh, sorry, coach. I was taking a crap. He's like, well, better you crap yourself now than on the field. So it's like, and everyone kind of laughed at that moment. Goes, I hope you crap yourself now, not on the field. So it was kind of, and it loosened everything up, and we went out, and the next thing you know, I'm playing against Figo, and I remember I'm like, dude, I don't know how much of a chance I stand against this guy. So my first play, I just freaking bladed him. His teammate set him up for a 50-50 ball, just boom. He just flipped, bam, no foul. Second play, boom, flipped, no foul. Third play, he nutmegged me, but I bladed him again, and then I got a yellow card. And next play, he was at the other side of the field. I didn't have to play against him the whole game.
Oh, wow.
So I did that to a lot of the dudes. I played against Ronaldo the same way when he was at Sporting Lisbon.
Really?
Yeah. And he ended up playing. It was in a preseason game. We were with the crew, and we went over to Portugal, and they were saying, hey, there's this guy, Cristiano Ronaldo. I heard he's going to United, and he has those bright shoes on. I'm like, he's playing us? Like, yeah. He ends up lining up on the left side. I'm a right back. Same thing. 3 things in a row. Boom, boom, boom. I didn't have to play against him for the rest of the game, dude. Yeah. I figured all it took was a yellow card. Once I get my yellow card and hit them hard, then they would go on the other side. If they would have stayed on my side, I would have been screwed, because then I would probably have to get another yellow card. But so it was an intense game. Portugal, we ended up having a dream start. 1-0, 2-0. I think it was 3. Did we score 3 in the first half? It might have been. And I think maybe it's 3-1 in the first half. But yeah, just a dream half start. Portugal, just jaws dropped to the ground. No one expected that. And then we come out the second half, and it's a battle, because then they start playing. They start realizing, whoa, this is a World Cup. Like I don't know why they were so nervous or we were so amped, but it was 3-0 before you knew it, And there was luck involved. So you could see the tides were swinging towards us. And we ended up holding on to that game 3-2, barely made it out. And yeah, I mean, it was a probably shocker of the tournament at that point. No one thought Portugal was going to lose to the U.S., in the first round.
Yeah, for sure.
Normally your first game in the World Cup, they say if you win your first game, you have an 80% chance to analytics shit, but 80% chance of making it to the next round. But you still have that in the back of your mind, You're like, if you win, okay, we're done. Which it really means nothing, because you can, crap the bed the next 2 games and be out, even if you win. But that we were in a good position right away. And the second game was against South Korea. Just an intense game. That was when the whole stadium was red. Their colors were red. And over there, how they do it in Japan and South. Everything's synchronized. Their chants were synchronized, or when everyone stood, whatever. So the stadium was like this the whole game. It was like you could see
Is it
like
distracting?
Yeah, totally. You could see it
yeah.
like through peripheral vision sometimes. You would say, because it was weird.
And it's different than what you're normally used to like hearing or seeing. Yeah. So you're like, what's going on there? Yeah.
It was so weird. Yeah. And then we ended up getting out of that game 1-1. And, that was a battle. Brad Fiedel, a goalkeeper, had a credible game. He saved a PK. But that was when, like, whoa, we got a chance to make it to the next round. Like, this is crazy. We're 4 points in. We should be good. But it ended up working out where everyone kind of beat everyone that game, that bracket. And it came down to last, I think South Korea played Portugal. We played Poland. And Poland basically did to us what we did to Portugal. It was 3-0 before we knew it. I think 2-0 through. It was like boom, boom, boom. And we're like, and the Portugal-South Korea game, Portugal had won 2 games, or they did something. They needed a tie, I think. And they were through. And because South Korea was through, I think, no matter what. And we were out of the tournament up until that point, until like 10 minutes, or probably 5 minutes left. And I remember having the ball on the field, kind of getting it, and passing it, and then after I see all of our fans start jumping in the air, like, ah! And I knew at that point that Portugal had lost. South Korea scored in the last like 5 seconds of the game, and a guy did like an incredible move. Ball got played over the top. hit it once over the guy's head and then blast it, like an incredible goal. So right then, no matter what, we won or lost, we were through. So I remember being on the field, and out of nowhere, I watched the game again, and you see kind of with the ball, there's 0 people around me. And I start doing like a couple step overs. And I remember all my friends were like, dude, what were you doing right there? Like, dude, like a couple of them didn't know that we were through at that point. I'm like, dude, I knew we were through. So no matter what the fuck we did, we were through. So
is it the same dance I just saw?
Everyone else does step overs in this tournament. This is my turn to do one, dude. You know?
I saw your son on Instagram coasting, doing a little celebration. Was that a Frankie special right there?
Yeah, dude. I do the Bob Marley, but he's got it's ran over to him. Now they just do all the Fortnite dances. So
okay.
And I never know when they learn them because I never seen him trying them in his room or anything. But he knows all the dances.
He just goes right. Yeah.
Right. So that was that game. That was a South Korea game or Poland game, and then came. The infamous U.S.-Mexico, dude. And what a perfect game to have. You know, this was a time when Mexico forever was so much better than the U.S. in soccer. And then we were starting to take over a little bit now, and we were starting to beat them. And now we had the advantage, and they had always thought, hey, man, these guys we're way more superior than the U.S. team. And so they had a cockiness about them. So this was it. This is who's better in a World Cup. We've been kicking your butts for the last 5-6 years. Before that, you kicked our butts for 50. So here we go. And what a game! And that game was for me. I didn't play in it because I accumulated 2 yellow cards in the first 3 games, so I had to sit out the game. So I was on the bench for that game and just watching in my street clothes, and that was tougher than playing.
I bet.
It was like, man, second round of the World Cup, you want to be out there. You're like, oh, man. And, dude, what a game, dude. I mean, we ended up the same way. Mexico ended up, in that World Cup, we were a drop and counter team. So we just counterattacked. We'd counterattack through our center forward and 2 of our outside guys. And so that game was the same. We dropped off, let Mexico have all the possession, doing all their dances. And then, bam, once we attacked, bam, 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 boom, 1-0. Bam, 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 2-0. And game was 2-0, and I mean that was one of the best moments for me of the tournament. Just to beat Mexico in the stage of where, hey, this is it. Whoever's better is better, and this is bragging rights for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So I have those guys down. They can never say anything. I'm like, yeah, dude, we beat you during that time when you guys were great and we were great. So. But what a game! And that team. Hats off to them because they were a great team. But yeah, they ended up doing some dirty stuff after the game, and they got a couple red cards late in the game, and so there was some bad blood going off the field. And then we get in the locker room, everyone's partying, we're like, hey, dancing because we're in the quarters of the World Cup, and no one I don't think thought we'd be there. And so we get in the bus and everyone's hanging and. We have, the coach has beers for us because we have 4 or 5 days before the next game. He's like, guys, you deserve this one. We're chilling on the bus, drinking our beers. It just ends up being so weird. We get stopped at a light, and right as a light comes right next to us, literally from me to you, and that's how the traffic traveled. I mean, you're this close in cars in South Korea, and we look over, and it's a Mexico bus. Literally, their whole team bus, our team bus. And we instantly, one of our guys on our team, I forget, one of the captains, went instantly over to the window, starts banging on the window. And then they kind of all look over, and we all have beers, and we're just dancing away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, these guys' faces. I mean, I still remember if you ever saw anger and frustration, and I want to kill, almost probably before an MMA fight. That's how those guys feel. That's how they felt. Their faces were just as much fury as you could see, and it was for me just glory.
Absolutely, that's what you want.
Moment, I don't like to rub it in, but at
amazing.
that moment, that's what you wanted to do, and it was. I just remember that made the tournament for all of us, because we ended up losing to Germany in the next game, 1-0 in a game that we arguably should have probably won, but. That made the tournament for all of us. We walked away from that tournament, even though we still lost in the second round. The quarters. that was the game that you walked off going, man, we did it. We did what we've been trying to do since I've been this big.
That's amazing.
Beat Mexico in a World Cup, and we did it. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is so cool. And then you finally come back home to the United States to take a couple of MLS titles.
Yeah. Come back here and there, crew was interested in me. And, I wanted to stay over in Europe a bit longer, but at the time I had a kid and he was about 4 years old, and Nesta, and he was over here in the States. And, at that point I had to decide, am I going to be just a provider or am I going to be a dad? So I chose to come back, and luckily, the league was thriving here in America, so it wasn't like it was a huge drop off. Obviously, I'm not playing Champions League games and stuff, but really got to get back to my roots a little bit and get back to my son and my family, and then get back to that kind of, because even when I came back to the States, it became the brotherly team again.
Sure,
and that was something I was missing in Europe. Like I said, I felt like. It was like our team was unbelievable, but we were 11 good individuals that worked together somehow as a team. Whereas the cup team that we won in 08 and we won it here with the crew, that was a team, dude. That was your brother next to you, and you fought for him, and that's how we won. We won more through just being a band of brothers than anything else. So that was the biggest difference for me over there. It was just so much more business-like in Germany. And there's a reason for it, because there's so much more money involved, and there's so many different nationalities. And, now we're seeing that a bit more here in the States. But when I came back to play for, the crew for the next 9 years, it was still, I really had the super love for the game again, where I might have, it became more business over there. And I didn't like that as much. I wasn't, I never was into it for that, really. And you have to be, because that's how you're made. The life of a professional athlete's a really short career, but I never really thought of it that way, and
you have two lives.
Now I wish I did a little bit more.
Well, as athletes, you got two lives. You have your professional occupation and you have your real life.
Yeah.
And that balance seems to be the hardest thing for a lot. It's like, okay, how do I separate a church and state kind of a thing, and how do I still provide for a family but be a pro athlete? It's a big burden to carry for some.
It was hard. It was tough over there. It really was. And then that's why, like I said, when I came back here, it was just the love for the game got back, because I just wanted to fight for a team. I got into soccer because I love the team sport. I love surfing because it was individual too. But the thing of a team for me was really cool. It just felt like a family, and and you always have that. We always will. We have that 08 team. We still all talk to each other. We're all over the state, so you have a lot of cool bonds, and it was fun.
Back home to Los Angeles.
Then back home to LA.
How did all that happen with David Beckham? And I mean, what a team that was.
Yeah, totally. So the crew ended up kind of playing ourselves out a little bit. Team got older. We ended up still doing good after the 08 Cup. We won a couple of titles in the league, but we didn't win the cup. So then, my old coach from World Cup, Bruce Arena, was over in LA. He was the LA coach, and the crew had said, "Hey, I was 37, 38 at the time, and said, hey, we're getting over you a little bit, and you're getting older. Do you want a front office job?" And I was like, I just played 32 games last season. No, I'm not done yet. Normally, if you retire, you got, now all of a sudden you'd maybe play 5 games the next year. So
you're like, is that where we're playing the games now in the front office?
Yeah, do you guys switch the stadium to there? It was really quick. I was like, no, guys, I want to play another year. So we ended up going out good on good terms, and ended up signing up with the Galaxy, and it was perfect. We ended up just did a full circle, basically.
And you're kind of back home because you're from San Diego.
I was playing in tournaments in San Diego and LA, right of where we lived in LA. So it was really full circle. So my parents got to come to every game and do all my buddies came to all the games. And for years they never got to.
And you're probably thinking in your mind, like, when you're in Germany, like, oh, I would love so-and-so to be able to see this right now.
Totally. I wanted my parents there and everyone, all my bros, everyone. And they would come once a year, So this was pretty cool because everyone would come up, spend the night at the house. We lived right on the beach. It was more pretty much like I got back to my roots. I probably surfed more than I played soccer that last year, which is kind of how I started, So it was a little bit ironic that I would go to the training and with sand on my feet. I remember the coach Bruce just looking at me going, Like, yeah, and then, next to Beckham, and just went out on a high, dude. And
How was he to play with? It was pretty cool.
Oh my God, coolest dude ever, man. Really. I mean, I've not a bad word to say about that guy, because
awesome.
he goes through so much stuff in airports and out to dinner.
Imagine.
Like, we were kind of, you have your little posse that you go out to dinner with, and when you're a pro, you have 4 or 5 guys, and you have your little, and I was part of that little posse, and man, people would come up to him, right in the middle of a steak bite, and he would every time sign, like, dude, never vibed anyone the wrong way when
That's cool.
He could have a lot, like,
absolutely, yeah.
But just to play with him at the end, and got to play with my other good friend that I grew up playing with my whole career, Greg Berhalter, and it was a dream season. We ended up, like I said, we're surfing more than we played soccer. We all played volleyball on the beach. Like, we'd go straight from training. It was almost like the Tampa Bay days. We'd go straight from training. Beckham, all the guys would come over to my house, because I would live in Manhattan Beach, right on the beach.
Oh, that's great.
And we'd play volleyball and have some beers, drink on the beach, and then go surf. And
what a cool setting. I mean, what a cool party to be at.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then that year we ended up winning. We ended up winning the cup. And for me, that's what it's about. Once you get that band of brothers and everyone's having a good time and fighting for each other, that's hard to find. And everyone thinks it's a lot easier to find than I think it is. But to have, a good 24 guys come together that all like each other, that's not easy to do. There's a lot of testosterone in rooms.
Sure.
Guys want to play that think they shouldn't. But on the teams that I had won championships with, that seemed to be the solution.
Was Robbie Keane over there that time?
Yep, Keno. God, how could I forget him? Yeah, he was part of the posse. So we had Keno, we had Bex, we had the whole deal.
It was a dream team of sorts.
It was a dream team, dude.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of near the end of our careers. Greg was older, myself, a guy named Jovan Krosky, Keno, and Beckham. So we're kind of the older crew. But it was fun, man. What a year we had, and it was a good, perfect way to just like ride off into the sunset. And I really did.
Yeah.
Next day, I had the cup on the beach and I was surfing. So you got to carry the
That's
cup.
so cool.
Like, everyone gets it for a day or whatever. And so I had the cup on the beach. I remember just sitting on my board looking in on the water, and my kids were all playing and juggling a soccer ball all around the cup. And I was just like, what a perfect soccer life. I'm like, that's when I knew. I'm like, okay.
Was that it?
That part, this part's over. That part's over. And it was anyways. That year I didn't play. As the minutes were dwindling, and my body was about as much as it could take. It had as much as it could take over the 38 years of ground and pound. And like I said, I wasn't the skilled guy. The skilled guys can kind of sit in the middle a little bit and relax, but I always had to run. So I was a runner and put a lot of miles on there.
It's very rare that someone's there at the start of something. So the MLS to where you see it now. How do you find the stadiums, the facilities, the coaches? How do you think they've improved along the way, comparing that to Germany and the likes over there?
It's starting to get a lot more like European soccer. I mean, the trainings are getting intense. The professionalism is 100% there now. And just for me back then, I mean, we weren't professionals. We were professionals on the field, but off the field, we weren't. Just like in the 80s, those guys, you saw the Lambeers and Rodmans. Those guys are all there. They're at nightclubs all night, and that's kind of how we grew up. Whereas now, there's so much people can see you out and they can write stuff about it. And so the guys are almost forced to be professionals. I feel like because. If someone
you don't want to get caught up, right?
Friday night,
Totally.
I saw this guy out on Friday and he scored an own goal on Saturday. So that's how it was over in Europe. If you lost a game over in Europe and you were seen in the city anywhere that night, people were coming up to you, even the fans going, dude, what are you doing out here? You just got your ass kicked. Go home. And you're like, oh.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, the players tell you.
Because they have such an opinion about it. They're so involved. It's almost like they're on the team, right? The
they
fans.
are on the
It's
team.
crazy.
Dude. Their whole city revolves around that Saturday.
And that's
literally
beautiful,
that Saturday. And so it means everything to them. Dude, that's what they live for. It's a Mardi Gras every Saturday for them, but it's not always a party. It's more a passion. But when you win, it's a party. But when you lose, it's intense over there. And I've seen guys get beat up, players get punched at bars after. So it's intense. But it's starting kind of, not to get that gnarly with punching people in the face at bars, but but yeah, the guys can't go out as much, and people, even the fans, you know, they don't want to really see you out as much. You know, if you have a game on Saturday, which I love because that means they're really starting to respect the sport here, and it really means something to them. You know, or not like back in the day it didn't, but. It's like people would see me out and say, "Frank, I saw you on Friday, dude. You had such a good game on Saturday." Yeah. I saw you like that. I'm like, just come on, bro. Don't tell anybody. You know, so whereas now it's, you know, they're a lot more, I guess, professional.
It's the cost of growth, right? To where if you want this to be something more in America, and as far as you've got it, like as the national team, considering the underage structure really now is coming into its own in America, but in Europe it's always been like it's been there for a long time.
Totally.
So like in 10 years, you're going to have like some badass American players and American teams.
Yeah, you're already seeing that now with with a bunch of the guys, and I think that's just a process of both the league over here producing players, and those players that played in the league now have kids and kids that they're training. But those kids, Pulisic was trained by a guy that knew soccer really good and knew how to train them, and from a young age, he knew that. And then you're seeing that nonstop now. I mean, I can even see it with some of my kids on my team. Like my kid's 14, and there's guys that I'm like, oh my God, at 14, I couldn't even do half that stuff. And I even at the end of my career, I couldn't do that stuff. So amazing, that's how good they're getting. But it's a product of guys, the sport growing so much here and people growing up with it now that, the dads that were good at soccer before, now they're the ones that are coaching the teams. And they're coaching the 5-year-olds and the 6. I said before, back in the day, my dad had never kicked a soccer ball, and he was a coach of my team until I was 10, So there's a difference.
Wait a second. We can't go any farther without talking about your dad and not saying, like, who he taught the hook shot to.
Yeah, my dad he taught, back in the day, his name was Lou Alcindor. My dad knew him as Lou, but yeah, my dad was the guy who taught Kareem Abdul-Jabbar the sky hook. He really
like serious business.
That's serious business. Yeah.
Is that the craziest?
Yeah. And it didn't come in. It came into fruition because it was a funny story. Because my dad had been telling this story forever. Like when you're young, because he grew up with him. Sure. They lived in the same projects in Brooklyn, or I think it was Brooklyn, right on the Brooklyn Bridge. My grandma used to walk him to church, and so my dad was. I'll tell the story. Should I tell the whole story?
Sure.
At time or
yeah.
So I'll tell it quickly. So my dad was like a high school basketball guy, or he went to Manhattan College. His high school basketball coach said, he came to him and said, "Hey George, I got this guy that I want you to work with," because my dad was a good teacher. He was kind of like a Woody Harrelson over there in New York. He was a baller on the streets.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So he's one of those guys. So he said, "George, but he's good. He was a good coach. And George, I want you to work this kid. He's 6'4". He has size 15 feet, and he's in 7th grade."
That's insane.
Yeah, my dad, he goes, "But he can't chew bubble gum and catch the ball at the same time." He goes, he goes, "If he just holds the ball anywhere in the air, he can't." So my dad gets a hold of him, and he goes, "Okay, I'll work with him." First thing he notices is he catches the ball low. And he's a huge guy. He goes, "Lou, what are you doing?" Like all the guys, the little point guards can just slap the ball out of your hand. He goes, "Hold the ball up. They have to jump up to get it, and they'll foul you." So that was the first thing he taught him. So then he started doing that, and he started getting the thing. And then my dad had kind of this shot. It's called the push hook, where he'd kind of push hook it. He was a 6'4" center, so he'd kind of back up into people and like kind of do a push hook. So he starts working with Kareem or Lou, and they start doing this push hook, and then they're practicing in the streets, and my dad could block it. So eventually my dad goes, "Okay, wait, let me see your width of your arm." So he does your wingspan, does his wingspan, and it's like a foot, 2 feet bigger than my dad. And my dad's like, "Oh my God." So he goes, so he starts practicing this drill with him. It's called the Mikan drill. It's like a layup drill. You go left, right, layup, boom, and you go back further and further. So he starts doing the push hook with him. And then as he gets further away, he goes, "Why don't you take your hand like this? And it's going to be a wrist shot." And he noticed that his arms were so high in the air, he was always the first guy that shoot the ball down on the basket. Normally everyone's shooting the ball
right up.
in an arc. He was actually shooting the ball almost downward because his arms were so high. So eventually he said he just took that and he would ask my dad for the gym keys every day. He said he was the most hardest working kid like ever. Like he was in the gym every night, all night. Cause I mean, they didn't grow up in the best places. So,
Sure.
and then my dad would go work with them every night. And then, you know, once he saw him in like 10th grade, 11th grade, and this was, my dad got him in 7th or 8th. So he said, once he saw him playing high school at 10th and he was doing that, like, I mean, he was scoring 70 points, 60 points a game.
That's crazy.
He said, he goes, it's over.
insane.
He said, no one's going to stop him. And then, so then he became Kareem.
Yeah.
They didn't, you know, all the years later, my dad's telling these stories. I taught him around the campfire.
Yeah,
all my
yeah,
buddies
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, right. They used to call me there. They're like, oh, Frankie, you're the son of the father of the skyhook.
Yeah.
They used to laugh at me, you know.
Oh, no.
We were playing basketball. I'm like, shut up. And I didn't know if it was true or not because it didn't see how it seems real, but I don't know because he became such a ledge, you know. So one day I'm watching Mike and Mike in the Morning, and you know, on ESPN show they used to do it, and Kareem's on there doing it. He just came out with his book, like a book tour, and he's on there, and they're talking to him, and they're like, "So Kareem, we got to ask you, who taught you the skyhook?" And he goes, "You know what? We've been looking for this guy forever. His name's I know his first name. It's George." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, whoa, I'm watching this go down. Like, well, I'm in the morning getting ready to go to training.
It's live and you're
I'm
seeing
getting ready
this.
to go to training. I'm like, with a cup of coffee. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, where? So I tweet at him right away. I'm like, morning. Hey, I go, you know, that guy they're looking for, it's my dad. Here's my info. If you want to contact me, you can, blah, blah, blah. It's our beat writer here with the Dispatch calls me, Abdul-Jabbar. He goes, Frankie, I just saw your tweet. Are you serious? And he's kind of a basketball guy, and he's covering the crew.
Okay.
And it's like, are you serious? And I go, you know what? I started telling the story like I'm telling you guys. I go, you know what? Why don't you just call my dad? And here's his number. Call him, and you see if it's real. He calls me back like 3 or 4 hours later. He's like, holy shit, Frankie. He's like, holy shit. He's like, can I write this? I go, do what you want with it. So he writes an article the next day. And it's like, well, Frankie dead. And then Kareem's management ends up contacting the Dispatch writer. The Dispatch writer gets a hold of his agent, or the agent gets a hold of it and goes, hey, can we talk to this guy? And then Jardy calls me, can I give this guy your dad's number? I was like, yeah, totally. So then my dad gets a phone call, I guess, and it's Lou, Kareem. He's like, Mr. Hejduk? He's like, yeah. And my dad's like, Lou. And my dad was like, oh my, and they ended up talking for like 3-4 hours. Yeah. That first time, because Kareem didn't really remember a lot of his career when he was younger. You know, like that part of it. He remembered bits and pieces. And my dad, he has a photographic memory. So he got to like tell everything. And so, dude, they talked for like a good 6 months. They would talk like at least a couple hours a week.
But you finally got the confirmation.
Oh, full confirmation. Full confirmation. And then then Kareem wrote another book, and he put my dad's name. The man who taught me the skyhook is George Hejduk, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So my dad has like this claim to fame. You know, he's almost 82 now. So he's happy to go. He just holds that book up like nonstop. and so he actually went to his, they had a book signing in San Diego. My dad went there, and Kareem brought him front and center. It's
that's amazing.
This is the guy that taught me the sky. My dad was like, and it's so funny. I have a picture with Kareem. My dad's 6'4". He's like, 6'5". He's pretty big dude. Kareem makes him look like, Kareem's this much bigger than
Oh
him.
my God, that's
like
so
a little
funny.
kid, man. So I'm like, oh my God, it was pretty cool.
So you guys lived West Coast for so long. Did your dad give up the Knicks for the Lakers?
Oh no, yeah, totally. No, dude, he's a college guy.
He is. Okay.
Yeah, he's much more of a rootsy because they're kids. You know, they're a lot more disciplined. You know, you can discipline them. You know, I guess the professionals are, like I said,
Urban Meyer.
It's more, exactly. It's more about managing players, and that's a whole different ballgame. So
no doubt.
Yeah,
man, what a great day. We've been here at an awesome place called Cleaver here in Grandview, Ohio. If you guys want to stop by, they just put out a tray of wonderful cheeses and meats, and this is just like the tip of the iceberg. The steaks here, unbelievable. The butcher and the grocer next door. Tom, this has been fun, man.
It's been phenomenal. I appreciate the time, Frankie.
Man, that's it.
Awesome.
It's been fun for me, guys. I get to reminisce my career again, dude.
That's true. Serious legend, man. Like not only in soccer, football, but like for the United States.
Yeah, I love you guys, dude. It's fun. I've known Loper now since I've been here in Columbus. So we've known each other. When did you come here?
I was here in 2012.
Yeah.
It was like right after you retired.
Yeah. What year is it now?
Because I remember you were
Good
so
10 years,
you were so antsy. Like you're like, I don't know, I should be doing something. You know, like and we just
luckily you were there because you're like, dude, come on the show.
I was like, let's go to concerts. I'm like, that'd be, you know, So
that was fun. Good times. Dude.
Well, thanks for doing the podcast, man.
Yeah, this was awesome, dude. Anytime, guys. Awesome. Have fun reminiscing, dude. It's like, you know, you get back those moments that, you know, I love to do these things. So
well, hopefully as the crew goes on too, we can keep in touch and like come back in and out, get little segments in. It'd be great.
Would love to. And,
I can recap the crew whenever you guys want, dude.
And go check out the stadium and, you know, it's amazing.
I got to give you guys a tour. So you guys let me know when you want to get in there and we'll set something up.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we got the kickoff coming up in about 3 weeks.
Yes.
Here soon. Yeah, it's coming up quick. I think it's the earliest the season started. I think the first game is February 20th.
That's wild. So like NASCAR started early this year. You know, they had that extra race at the LA Coliseum. Did you see that?
Yeah, totally. I don't know.
Dude, that was rad. I mean, like, I don't know if there's a lot of NASCAR fans that are watching Week Things Don't Break, but I mean, it is like, that was an insane quarter mile track that they put at the LA Coliseum where they did the Olympics years ago.
They're adding races. They're adding games to everything. Anytime, just like football, they added an extra game this year. You know, they're adding whatever they can.
They have to make back their money.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out the Week Things Break podcast. I'm Loper, Tom Barry, and you can check us out on social. Follow us there too, at Frankie Hejduk, number 2, right?
Of course.
Number 2, of course. And hey, give this video a like. Check us out on all of our platforms, and we'll be back for the next episode.